Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, Maverick family. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. We are going to try to pick up the Ron DeSantis announcement, which is coming at you. It should be coming at us like any minute now. So that will be the first thing that we will be trying to do here. I'm just trying to establish the proper feed to get us dialed in. So give me just a moment. I'm going to run a little promo here while I check the various links that we have set up, trying to capture this feed for you. So give me just one moment. I will be right back. Do not go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Still working on it. I think I've got the feed. Just give me a moment longer and I'll be right with you.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, so it says preparing to launch. So I'm on it. Stay with me. Elon Musk and Ron DeSantis coming right up. Don't go away.
Fighting the Great Reset. By leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now, at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
So DeSantis is making his announcement on Twitter with Elon Musk, but this is an audio-only event on Twitter Spaces. I have what I believe is the feed set up here. I'm still not hearing anything. Still says preparing to launch. Here, I'll show you the page, and we can watch this together. Here we go. I can hear feedback. Oh, that's exciting. There it is. Now it's quiet. And let's come back here.
All right.
There it is.
Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, everyone, depending on wherever in the world you're joining us from. I'm broadcasting live from Twitter headquarters. It's David Sachs here. Elon is sitting next to me, and we want to welcome you to this historic Twitter Spaces event, and more broadly, a first in the history of social media. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce two individuals who've done more to loosen the.
They're whispering in the microphones, and they have feedback. They're having technical problems, and I don't understand why.
All right, sorry about that. We've got so many people here that I think we are kind of melting the servers, which is a good sign. All right, I'd like to just introduce the folks in the room here. So it's safe to say we wouldn't be making history without the man sitting next to me, Elon Musk. His decision to purchase this platform last year to restore it to its original mission as a beacon for free speech, and even to expose Twitter's past complicity with a government censorship regime might have surprised many, but not those of us who've known and worked with Elon for nearly a quarter century. His commitment to freedom and his willingness to put his money where his mouth is, upset the narrative control imposed on us by our government, elite institutions, and corporate media. Go ahead and send a heart up if you want to say thank you, Elon. Governor Desantis first drew my attention and support when I saw how he responded to the COVID pandemic and refused to believe what we now know to be the many falsehoods that government experts and their media mouthpieces were feeding us. He kept Florida's schools open and its economy thriving, while my state of California chose 2 years of learning loss and lockdowns that we have yet to fully.
We got a delay going. They could use a little more. Turn the volume up a little. I hope he runs the country better than he runs his campaign launch if he gets elected. Well, now we've lost whatever it is they were sending. So feedback, looped video or audio, delayed audio on a loop with feedback. A false start. Now, no, the feed has been lost. And this is the direct feed straight from Twitter Spaces. This is the primary feed. Hello.
Let's see.
They're
So,
back.
we on? Yeah, I think so.
Just to simplify this.
Wow. Come on. Where are you?
I think we're just going to use your.
Oosh. Not going so smoothly. Come on, come on, come on. Where's the audio? Where's the audio? Come on. Here it is. Looped again.
Well, there's 382,000 people in the room.
All right, great. So let's see.
So they just keep crashing, huh?
Yeah, I think we've got just a massive number of people online, so it's servers are straining somewhat.
Okay, still waiting. It's not us, folks. It's Twitter. They keep looping the audio. Okay, we're 12 minutes in, and this is what we're getting. Oh boy. This just doesn't have the same impact as like Trump coming down the escalator.
All right, we're just reallocating more server capability to be able to handle load here. It's really going crazy. So yeah, obviously very excited to
That seems to be a bit better now.
Governor Desantis make this
Or not. Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't know what to make of this. Is it just because the servers are overloaded? Did they underestimate the impact, the audience that they were going to generate with this? It appears maybe that's the case. Or is it just straight up technical problems? Still waiting. Now 14 minutes in. Not going very smoothly. Trump over on Truth Social. Another shot at DeSantis. Polling shows that right now Trump is still in a commanding lead. The most recent polling says that he has 69% support. DeSantis is at 13 in second place. Pence at 6%. Ramaswamy at 4%. Haley at 3%. Christie 1%. Cheney 1%. Scott 0. And no audio coming from Twitter, the primary feed. This is where you go. This is what we're waiting for. Come on, Elon. Get your crew. Crank it up. It says preparing to launch again. Looks like they're rebooting. Details not available. I don't know what they're up to. Give me a minute here. I'm just going to search around just to make sure we're not missing anything, but this is the feed. This is the feed. So I think everyone is in the same exact position. Anybody that's trying to pick this up. Stick with me. I'll be right back.
We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey, no! It's too bugs!
Yeah, I'm checking other possible places to watch the feed. We've got it, man. This is it. This is the big DeSantis moment. Now 17 minutes in, and it is, at the moment, radio silence from Twitter headquarters. Much fanfare leading up to this, and now either technical problems or maybe a crashed server. I'm seeing they have 2.4 million people watching this feed. 2.4 million, plus additional weight on the servers from other sides. So yes, it's possible they've crashed their own party. The Desantis announcement, so far, very anticlimactic, or maybe very climactic, very dramatic, and yet not. Exciting but boring at the same time. Yeah, just doesn't have the same punch as Trump coming down the escalator. Yeah. Hello, Elon. Hello, Ron DeSantis. This is Earth to Elon Musk and the Twitter team. Hello. Nothing. A great big nothing so far. Nothing. How shall I entertain the audience while we wait? Isn't this dramatic? This is so exciting. Is this what Ron DeSantis will be remembered for? You know, I actually like Ron DeSantis. I actually like him. But this is not great. This is not good. Does not bode well. Come on. Crank it up. Crank it up. Now 19 minutes in. And still radio silence from Twitter headquarters. If this is how they run Twitter, I'm not so sure I'd want to get on a SpaceX rocket. Well, I'm sorry. The rocket blew up today. We had a server malfunction. Too many people were watching the feed. And we lost radio communication, and the pilot pushed the wrong button. Our trip to Mars has been shortened considerably. Splashdown in the Atlantic any moment. Well, this is a historic moment. I will remember this day, this moment. This is one of those moments in history where you always remember where you were. I will remember sitting in this chair, talking like this, waiting for the big announcement, and getting nothing. Nothing. And still nothing. 21 minutes in. 21 minutes of feedback, looped audio, sporadic feed, and now nothing. Oh, there was some whispering too. Preparing to launch. Houston, we have a problem. Preparing to launch. This in itself is entertaining. My goodness, 21 minutes in and still they haven't been able to get the show on the road. Personally, I'm not sure this was the right decision. I kind of wondered, honestly, from the moment I heard that he was going to be making this announcement on Twitter Spaces using audio only. And I thought, does that seem wise? You know, you want to make a big splash, and I guess he is making a big splash. I suppose it is sort of trendy. It shows that he's in touch with today's technology and social media. But I'd want something visual. I'd want a big crowd. I'd want it to look substantial to send a message to make sure the optics are good. Optics. This is audio only, and now they can't even get the audio feed working properly. I'd say this is a great big faux pas so far. I mean, you could spin it up the other way and say that this just shows how much interest there is in Desantis running for the nomination against Trump. But honestly, now 23 minutes have gone by and they still can't get the feed operating. I'm wondering if they're sitting there talking into the microphones, thinking they're live, speaking to the world, when in fact it's dead air or dead digital. Wow. What a mess. What a mess. The Ron DeSantis announcement has been delayed, postponed until we don't know when. Still says preparing to launch, preparing to launch. Wow, 23 minutes in. Well, this is terrible. Got a feel for the guy, kind of. Got a feel for the guy a little bit. What the heck? Hi, I'm Ron. I want to be president. What's your name? This is terrible, guys. This is a disaster. Boy, heads will roll now. Am I missing something here? Nope. I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I'm just checking other feeds, make sure that everybody else is having the same issue. Yep. Yes, yes, yes. I don't know. Somebody's sending me a link here. Maybe it's to an alternative feed. I'll just check. Nope. That has nothing to do with this. I don't know, guys. Preparing to launch. Ended. Checking again. 2117. We're now. Wow. 25 minutes. Elon Musk has a blue check mark, eh? I wonder if he had to pay for it. I guess he did. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, we're running the audio. Yeah, they started late, so they were supposed to start at 6. It's now 6:26 p.m. Eastern time. The actual length of the broadcast so far has been 20 minutes and 15 seconds. 20:30. Yeah. Here we go. Well, they just saved it. Ouch.
Now it's quiet. All right. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, everyone, depending on wherever in the world you're joining us from. I'm broadcasting live from Twitter headquarters. It's David Sachs here. Elon is sitting next to me, and we want to welcome you to this historic Twitter Spaces event, and more broadly, a first in the
Unbelievable.
history of social media. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce two individuals who've done more to loosen the. All right, sorry about that. We've got so many people here that I think we are kind of melting the servers, which is a good sign.
Unbelievable
All right, I'd like to just introduce
that they're doing this.
the folks in the room here. So it's safe to say we wouldn't be making history without the man sitting next to me, Elon Musk. His decision to purchase this platform last year to restore it to its original mission as a beacon for free speech, and even to expose Twitter's past complicity with a government censorship regime might have surprised many, but not those of us who've known and worked with Elon for nearly a quarter century.
You got to be
His
kidding
commitment
me.
to freedom and his willingness to put his money where his mouth is, upset the narrative control imposed on us by our government, elite institutions, and corporate media. Go ahead and send a heart up if you want to say thank you, Elon. Governor Desantis first drew my attention and support when I saw how he responded to the COVID pandemic, and refused to believe what we now know to be the many falsehoods that government experts and their media mouth users were feeding us. He kept Florida's schools open and its economy thriving, while my state of California chose
in the control room
and lockdowns that
running the mixer is pulling in multiple feeds. And they keep running some recording from the beginning of the broadcast over and over. This is ridiculous.
Let's see. So, we on? Yeah, I think so.
Just to simplify this, I think we're just going to use your.
Let's see. So, we on? Yeah, I think so.
Just to simplify this, I think we're just going to use your. There's 382,000 people in the room.
All right, great. So let's see.
His audio levels are too low. This,
Yeah, I think we've got just a massive number of people online.
yeah,
So
this is
it's
this is
service
terrible.
is straining somewhat.
This is terrible. Wow. Yeah, this is not us, folks. This is the Twitter feed. I'll stick with it just for a few more minutes. But this is a disaster. Hang on here. I'm just going to reboot. Okay. Hang on. What is going on here? Are you guys even hearing it? This is a disaster. Okay. Here we go. Terrible. Let's pick it up over here. Switching the window here.
Wanted to listen to them could from anywhere in the world, United States or anywhere. So this is I think this is a really profound change. And it's also like it's not just whether the media reports something and an article is true or not. Even more powerful is deciding what the narrative is. And totally. So it's just like if there's only so much you can actually fit in a newspaper or a
Got it.
and there's only one thing you can really put on the cover of a magazine. So that whoever's deciding that is deciding to not talk about other things. Whereas with a public digital town square like we have here, it's possible for the public to choose the narrative. It empowers the people instead of a very tiny elite cabal, which I don't recognize the irony of using that phrase. But nonetheless, it's true, and you can judge by the results that this is a means for people to decide the narrative, and for the people to decide which way a debate will go, not sort of 5 editors in chiefs of a few newspapers, basically.
Yeah, and I think one of the really crazy things that happened during COVID is that social networks really started censoring dissenting
That's as much audio as there is.
on COVID. Medical
See if I can get
claims
another
that
feed.
ended up being totally correct in lockstep with what the mainstream media was doing. So basically, big tech platforms were undermining their main reason for existing, which is giving people a choice. And actually, there's somebody who I think knows more about that than any of us, which is Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who's a professor of medicine at Stanford. I want to pull him in here. Jay, you go ahead and unmute yourself if you can. It'd be great to hear from you. I know that during COVID, you worked with Governor Desantis. It'd be great just to hear a little bit about your interactions and if you have a question for the governor.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I mean, it was an absolute honor to work with Governor DeSantis, and I was really impressed by his decision making in the face of an absolute firestorm of criticism. But Governor, you did the right thing when you opened the schools. And my kids in California for a year and a half didn't see the inside of a classroom, whereas Florida kids were in school. And you can see it in the results, and the learning loss numbers are so much better in Florida. I'm really curious, Governor, as you're running for president, what are your thoughts about reforming, the public health authority in the United States and the federal government, the CDC, the FDA, the NIH? How do you see reforms we need so that the mistakes of the lockdowns that happened during the pandemic don't happen again when there's another pandemic?
Well, first, we need an honest reckoning about what happened during COVID. And the only honest reckoning is that all of those agencies, all of the elites, the public health establishment, they failed. They instituted bad policies. Obviously, it's a novel virus, but I think what happened was when the data was becoming more and more apparent that the path they were on was wrong, they doubled down and wanted to do it even more. And I really believe had Florida not just kind of stood in the way, I think this country would have had rolling lockdowns for probably a 2-year period. And so their impulses were authoritarian. They were not following the data. And I think the U.S. government needs to acknowledge the failures. And I think all of those agencies need to be cleaned out. What I saw just dealing with them was I saw a interest in the narrative and in politics over evidence-based reasoning and evidence-based medicine. And so I don't have confidence that those agencies are up to the task. And I think you need major overhaul of the whole enchilada with respect to public health in this country.
Can I follow up with that? I mean, I think the other thing that I saw during the pandemic, Governor, and you was subject to it just as much as I was when we were talking about COVID. YouTube censored a video of us speaking about in a roundtable that you hosted on COVID policy. There's so much of the federal government infrastructure went into suppressing honest scientific discussion during the pandemic. So it's not just public health agencies, but other agencies inside the federal government that worked to suppress the speech of Americans. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about it.
No question. So I'm actually in Florida. We recognize the danger there. So I'm actually going to be signing a digital bill of rights for Florida pretty soon, which will bar all state and local government officials from colluding or working with a technology company for the purpose of censorship of speech. Because you're exactly right. You had people in the White House, you had people in all these other agencies working with these platforms to try to take it down. And oh, by the way, what did they censor Dr. Bhattacharya for. It was a roundtable discussion that I led and convened. We had Dr. Bhattacharya, MD, PhD from Stanford. We had Martin Kaldorf from Harvard Medical School, and we had Sunetra Gupta from Oxford, who was generally viewed as one of the best epidemiologists across the pond until she became anti-lockdown. So these are all eminent people. And what are we discussing? We're discussing whether there's any scientific basis to force a school child to wear a mask for 8 hours a day. That all
Excuse me.
do it, and that you should not have school mask mandates. YouTube
Well, at least we
thought
have audio on the
that was,
sneeze.
quote, anti-science, and that should be taken down. But even at that point, we had already had enough experience in Florida where you had some schools that had done it before the state banned the mandates. You had some schools that had done it, some schools didn't, and the results were no different. And yet his video was taken down by Google YouTube. So it was a huge, huge problem. And yes, I think the federal government, FBI, DHS, any of the health agencies, it's unconstitutional for them to be delegating speech restriction to a private company. You can't do indirectly what the Constitution would clearly forbid you to do directly.
Let me pull in. We have Congressman Thomas Massey. If you're there, go ahead and unmute yourself. I mean, what we're talking about here is, I think, really unconstitutional actions by federal agencies. Congressman Massey, I know that you've been involved in this problem of government agencies being weaponized and used against the American people in an inappropriate way. Do you have a comment on this? And do you have a question for Governor DeSantis?
Well, first of all, let me say a big thank you to Elon Musk for buying Twitter and exposing all of this. On our weaponization committee, we wouldn't know so much of it if he hadn't done this, almost as a public service to the First Amendment. It's a disturbing trend. Government, as the governor said, the government is colluding with big corporations. We found out this week from an FBI whistleblower that Bank of America voluntarily gave names of and information on anybody who bought a hot dog in Washington, D.C. from January 5th to January 7th, and then overlaid that with gun purchases that they had on record anywhere in the country for any period of time. And just, they say they voluntarily gave that to the FBI. So that's disturbing to me. By the way, I've never met Elon Musk, but I'm one of your biggest fans. I'm the first congressman to have a Tesla. I'm on Starlink, and I would have bought a Powerwall, but I'm off the grid, and you wouldn't sell me one, so I had to make one with a wrecked Model S, and it's been running our house for 5 years. But my
And just for the record, I was with Thomas our first year as in Congress. He's got the Tesla, but his license plate is Kentucky Coal. So it's he's probably one of the only people that have that in the country.
Thanks for outing me, Governor DeSantis. But no, so Governor DeSantis, my question to you is, you served here in Congress for 6 years with me. And why is it that Congress is so feckless at reining in these government agencies? And what do you think we need to do? And if you were president, what would you urge Congress, or what bills would you like to see and sign to rein in this, sort of overreach of government bureaucracy?
Well, first, I think there's a lot that the executive branch can do, and all I will say when it comes to these agencies, we'll go into this a little bit more as the campaign goes on. But buckle up when I get in there, because the status quo is not acceptable, and we are going to make sure that we reconstitutionalize this government. And these agencies are totally out of control. There's no accountability, and we are going to bring that in a very big way. Now, part of the reason it's gotten so bad, power has been consolidated and effectively a fourth branch of government, because Congress hasn't used its two main powers that it has under the Constitution. First, the power of the purse. If an agency is engaging in conduct that is outside the realm of what is legal, or you think it's not good for the public interest, then you can remove the funding for those operations. There's nothing that they're not entitled to get the same level of funding every year, and yet Congress runs the government on autopilot, either continuing resolutions or massive omnibus spending bills. So these agencies are all bulletproof. They know that they're going to end up getting something similar or more every single year, and it creates an incentive for them to abuse their power. The other thing you can do is actually legislate,
I'll be right
so
back.
you're not delegating to the bureaucracy key issues regarding how to enforce federal law. You should define what you want. All they should be doing is implementing. Instead, Congress will basically give an invitation for the bureaucracy to make really important substantive decisions. And so Congress may never vote on something, and the bureaucracy will cite a law from 20 years ago and do things that are going to transform our society or our country. That is not the way the founding fathers drew up the Constitution.
So would you sign the Reins Act? We passed it out of Judiciary today.
Oh, yeah, no,
You
of
want-
course. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. That would, I think, be a great check for that. I also think that we're going to have a good chance to see some of the Chevron deference really curtailed or maybe even eliminated based on the U.S. Supreme Court's upcoming jurisprudence. And I think that's another reason why the bureaucracy has become so powerful, because courts have basically been told they can pretty much do what they want, and courts are supposed to just defer. I don't think that that's actually correct. I think the courts, they have to make a judgment about what does the law actually say, and you can't just defer to quote unquote experts in the bureaucracy.
Thank you.
All right, shifting gears, Governor, I want to ask you another topic that's been in the news a lot is Disney. They blamed you for canceling plans for $1 billion investment in Florida, said they were canceling 2,000 jobs. I saw other reports that suggested Disney was going to make the cuts anyway, and due to a larger, budget cutting initiative. Regardless of why they did it, why do you feel your fight with Disney remains important, considering you already beat them on the parental rights bill that they opposed? And what would you say to some of your opponents in this race who argue that the fight has dragged on too long?
Are
So
you
first of
kidding
all,
me?
Florida stands for the protection of children.
It's ice
We
cream
believe
time.
Jamming gender ideology in elementary school is wrong. Disney obviously supported injecting gender ideology in elementary school. They did oppose our parents' rights legislation. And the fact is, when they opposed it, that was a big deal, because for 50 years, anytime Disney wanted something in Florida politics, they pretty much got it. But not this time. I signed the bill.
Unbelievable.
We did, as you say, win on the issue. But what happened was Disney's posturing, some of the other statements that their executives were making, kind of the corporate culture, had really been outed as trying to inject matters of sex into the program.
Crappy audio levels, feedback, looped audio. They keep playing recorded messages from the beginning of the show over top of him. You can't hear half of what he's saying.
This setup that Disney engineered many decades ago, where they
And I'm eating
had
ice
their
cream
own government that they controlled
to mark
with
the
no
occasion.
accountability. They were exempt from the laws that all their competitors had to follow, massive tax breaks, and they even racked up municipal debt. And Florida basically put them on a pedestal.
Yeah, let's run this again. This is a great idea.
With this one company at the hip. We just didn't feel that we were comfortable maintaining that relationship.
It's
And
not a
so
server
we
issue,
ended
dude.
Their self-governing status. So Disney has to live under the same laws as everybody. They got to pay the same taxes as everybody, and obviously they'll be responsible for those debts. So the reason why there's a quote fight is just because they filed a lawsuit against the state of Florida, trying to get.
We won't stick with this too much
privileges
longer, but
reinstituted.
the disaster itself is news in the making. This is
Some of these
history.
Republicans that are taking Disney's side, they're basically showing themselves to be corporatists, because these are all corporate goodies. This is not the way you would run a competitive economy, and the arrangement had really outlived its usefulness, but it persisted because Disney was so politically.
Can you
powerful.
believe this?
I think the company's ethos have changed in a way.
What a
that
mess.
alienated a lot of people in our legislature and in Florida, and so there was really no justification.
Truly
to
a
keep it.
mess.
But make no mistake, they're suing to try to get special privileges. People are making money in Florida hand over fist because we have a great business climate. That's not good enough for them. They want to be treated differently than Universal and SeaWorld, and we don't think that that's appropriate. So, I think that they should withdraw the lawsuit, but obviously we're going to defend our actions because we think we have the right to do what we did.
It's funny. The media used to criticize Republicans for being in the pocket of big corporations, and now they're attacking you because you're not.
Well, not only that, David, it's interesting because the media in Florida for years had hammered Disney, and they would point out like that this was not a good arrangement because Disney was not accountable to anyone. I mean, when the state control board took over this district, the firefighters came to the board and they said, "Hey, we weren't getting survivor benefits for some of these widows," and so the state control board actually paid out some of the benefits that they were getting stiffed on. There were a lot of people in Central Florida who were really thankful that there was some accountability being brought to bear because, I mean, it's human nature. If there's no accountability over any individual or entity, of course, they're going to behave differently than if you have normal accountability. But the media was always very hostile to that. But just because I happen to be involved in bringing it back to reality and making sure that they were under the same laws, well, then all of a sudden they're running to Disney's defense. I mean, are you kidding me? And oh, by the way, on this project, they had announced this many years ago. They had not done anything for it, but that is actually not in Reedy Creek. So that was in a different part of Orlando. And so none of the issues that are involved in their suit would have made a difference there. Obviously, as a publicly traded corporation, they have a fiduciary duty to do what's best for their shareholders. So I'm assuming if they were in better financial shape and they saw the project as lucrative, they would have gone forward with it. But I think clearly they've had some problems with their stock price and a lot of other issues. And I'd also just finally point out, nobody probably has made Disney more money than me because they were open during COVID and they were closed in California. And that went on for many, many months where literally I had all the theme parks in Florida opened in 2020. People are going, it's safe, they're having fun. And the California parks were closed. I think they were closed for over a year out in California. So we were, I think, a much better place to be doing business, certainly since I've been governor.
Great. Let me shift gears here to the topic of education. I want to pull Chris Rufo into the conversation. I know he worked with you on some initiatives. I think, one other thing that the mainstream
A full
media
hour of
has,
this.
I think, bashed on is
Wow.
they've kind of started promoting this narrative that you want to ban books from school libraries. You refuse to teach kids about slavery or other unpleasant realities of American history, or pretend that gay people don't exist. Since many people, I think, in this room, we're now up to, over 271,000 people. So this is, I think, totally unprecedented in terms of the numbers of people we have participating. By the way, I think Twitter's working much better now. I think it crashed because when you multiply 500,000 people in a room by an account with over 100 million followers, which is Elon's account, I think that creates just a scalability level that was.
Yeah, you could try getting the audio mix
with
right.
my meager followership, it seems to be working much better.
We have some scaling issues specifically related to my account. At one point in January, if I tweeted above a certain size, it would crash the servers.
Yeah.
And then anyone else who was tweeting at the same time would lose their tweet as well.
So in any event,
issues.
Yeah. Well, we're breaking new ground here.
We're scaling issues.
Yes, you're breaking new ground when there are bugs and scaling issues. But in any event, back to the question I was asking you, Governor DeSantis, about
Or
education.
you need
The
better
media
people
has
running
been,
things.
saying you're trying to ban books,
Like,
refuse to teach
you know how to
kids
run an
slavery,
audio
you wanna
mixer.
say that gay people don't exist. What is the truth of the matter for people who maybe have never heard from you before? And then I want to pull Chris Rufo in on this as well.
Yeah, so the whole book ban thing is a hoax. There's not been a single book banned in the state of Florida. You can go buy or use whatever book you want. What we have done is empowered parents with the ability to review the curriculum, to know what books are being used in school, and then to ensure that those books match state standards and are age and developmentally appropriate. So, for example, parents have flagged books in schools that, for example, teach middle school kids how to use sex apps, that provide graphic depictions of sex acts and sex toys for people as young as 5th grade. And so clearly that is not appropriate to be in a middle school classroom. And so parents object and the schools take them out. I did a press conference that we called Exposing the Book Ban Hoax. And before I had the parents come up, before I spoke, I just played the video that had the images of the books that the parents had objected being in their kids' classroom. And the local news had to cut the feed because they said it was too graphic. Well, if it's too graphic for the 6 o'clock news, how is it okay for a 6th grader or a 5th grader? And so nothing's being banned. They're basically ensuring that we make curation choices that are consistent with state standards. And on the racial history, we eliminated critical race theory from our K through 12 schools. That was the right thing to do. In other words, we're not going to take a kid who comes in at 6 years old and say they're an oppressor or oppressed based on what their race is. That's divisive. That's wrong. We're also not going to be teaching people to hate their country. But what we are going to do is teach the accurate history. So in the same bill that banned critical race theory, we required teaching thoroughly about racial discrimination that occurred in American history. And Florida's history standards require all of those subjects from slavery, Reconstruction, segregation, all of that to be taught, and will continue to do that. So I think what you see is the left and the media colluding on this. They don't want to actually defend what it is that we are actually legislating or regulating. So they create these hoaxes that somehow you don't want kids to learn that slavery existed in America, which is preposterous. No one actually defends the offending material. And the question is why are there people intent on trying to get this stuff into the classroom? And I think it's part of a political agenda. So our mantra in Florida is the purpose of the schools is education, not indoctrination. Yes, I think it's very inappropriate to have sexually explicit material in a 5th grade library, 100%. But it's also the case that if you're focusing on that type of instruction, there's an opportunity cost involved. Why shouldn't we be doing more on science or reading or math? And so I think we're getting it right. And I think almost invariably, and Chris Rufo's had to deal with this too, when they're trying to craft these narratives, you just peel back the onion, you realize that this is something they're manufacturing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I was actually under the impression that there were some books banned, so this is news to me.
And there was the one this week was that Miami-Dade County took a book that was about like poems from I think like Biden's inauguration, and they moved it from elementary school library to middle school library. The media tried to act like somehow this is being banned, and you actually had Miami-Dade County Public Schools spokesperson have to come out and say there's nothing that's been banned or removed. It was basically just determined that this particular book was better suited for middle school. And so they put it in the middle school media center. And the media tries to act like somehow that is offending something with a book ban. So, but I think part of the reason that they're doing that is because, there is actually a movement to ban books from like Amazon and some of these others. California, some municipalities have banned things like To Kill a Mockingbird. What they're trying to do is see if some of these books pass a woke test. And if they don't, they are going against some of those books. Whereas in Florida, you can buy whatever book you want. But that's a different question than what would be appropriate for a 3rd grader or what would be appropriate for a 6th grader. Government, by definition, has to make those choices about what type of curriculum we want to put in front of our students. And the parents obviously have an important voice in that.
Absolutely. Well, in fact, a friend of mine, Tim Urban, who has a blog called Wait But Wine, is really one of the most reasonable people on earth and one of the most reasoned people I've ever met. Had a lot of trouble actually publishing his book, simply because it debated sort of sacred cows of woke ideology, but incredibly reasonable book. So that is the kind of de facto book banning and de facto book suppression that I see quite a lot of, is that publishers are unwilling to take risks.
Let me shift gears here for a second because I know we're running out of time. We're supposed to end, I think, around 4 Pacific. But thank you for giving us a little bit extra time here, Governor. Shifting gears to a major federal issue, immigration. We see I've seen these videos on social media and on TV of what looks like just insanity at the border. What is your take on what's going on there, and how would you address that as president?
Well, I'd reverse what Biden's doing. You need to shut the border down. You should not be entertaining these asylum claims for people crossing illegally. You know, asylum is a legitimate thing, but these are people that, when they come, I mean, they're being persecuted. These people coming overwhelmingly are economic migrants that are coming across many other different countries. They should be applying for asylum there if they were, truly qualifying for that, but they're not. They know that if they just show up at the southern border, and these are people all over the world that are coming illegally, they know that they will get a sheet of paper saying, okay, come back for a
Hang on, I'm switching the feed.
insanity once and for
Here
all.
we go. I think that's got better volume.
There's a, I think, follow-up question on immigration from Steve Desantis, who is a national radio personality and I think an important commentator in the great state of Iowa. Steve, do you have a comment or question? I think you just need to unmute.
That's better.
If Steve can unmute, then we'll go ahead and ask him for a question. If not, we'll keep rolling here. All right, 3, 2, going, gone.
I'm there,
All right,
guys.
sorry,
I'm
Steve.
there, I'm there, guys.
Oh,
Sorry.
there you
There
go.
he is.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm
my
there.
bad. First of all, I want to echo what Congressman Massey said to Elon. Elon, if I put down money on January 1st, 2022, that Twitter was going to be the last bastion of free speech on earth, brother, I'd be about as rich as you are on that bet right now. I mean, it's incredible what you have done here, and the restoration of a lot of accounts of people that were truth tellers and were ran from here for telling the truth. I saw a meme the other day that said, of course, you have scientific consensus when you censor all the scientists who disagree. So I wanted to just say, first and foremost, on behalf of a lot of grateful people around the country and the world, really, thank you very much for that and the investment you made in that cause. Thank you. A question is a follow up to you, Governor, on this very issue with immigration. We have heard a lot over the years lock her up, drain the swamp, going to build a beautiful wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. And crowds cheered and everybody loved it. And brands got built and nothing got done. What is the bottom line assurance that you can make to the people that are listening right now, all over the world and all over the country, that you can actually do the agenda that you just articulated when others tweeted about it and talked about it, but then couldn't actually follow through?
It's a great question because I share that frustration. I think even my worst critics in Florida will acknowledge when I tell people I'm going to do something, I don't make promises or say I'm going to do something lightly. I've thought it through, and I know that I am going to follow through on what I tell people I'm going to do. So this is one. There will be follow through. Number two, I understand the different leverage points that you would have under Article 2 of the Constitution. I studied that a lot at becoming governor about Florida's Constitution, doing the same thing for the federal Constitution. And you've got to know how to use your leverage to advance what you're trying to accomplish. So, for example, there's leverage that we can use vis-a-vis Mexico that I think presidents have not been willing to do. I think sometimes for political purposes. But I'll look at, okay, what are all the variety of options we can do? Which buttons can I push? And I will do that to be able to bring this issue to a conclusion once and for all. We had Hurricane Ian come through Southwest Florida, Category 4 plus storm, September of 2022. And it did a lot of damage. But one of the things it did, it knocked out a bridge going from the mainland to Pine Island, and it severed the Sanibel Causeway in 3 different locations. And the locals were being told it's going to take 6 months to get that stuff repaired. And so they came to me, even though these were not state-owned bridges, and they said, can you help us? And I said, okay, I'll do it. So I got my guys together. I said, listen, no bureaucracy, no red tape, and no excuses. Get it done. We need to open these bridges back. Pine Island Bridge reopened 3 days later. Sanibel Causeway opened 2 weeks after that, way ahead of schedule, because we wouldn't take no for an answer, and we wanted to make sure we got it done. So for me, it is not a campaign slogan that you get in and then forget about it. I'm, as an American citizen, if I wasn't running, this would be an issue that bothers me. I've put a lot of my capital as Florida governor involved in combating illegal immigration. We banned sanctuary cities my first year. We just did a strong anti-illegal immigration bill in Florida that's working. I've put marine assets in the Florida Keys to help the Coast Guard repel boats from places like Haiti. I have people at the southern border right now helping Texas, and we've even been able to relocate illegal aliens to places like Martha's Vineyard. So I don't think any governor has probably gone out of his way to do more to try to make an impact on this issue. And I'm not going to take no for an answer. And I think our voters are sick of the empty promises. They want to see action.
Thank you, Governor.
Well, Governor, I saw the cover of Time Magazine this week, and I think they were trying to do a negative story because they had you were sort of scowling in this portrait they made of you, and in the article they call you they compared you to the Terminator, and I think they meant insult, but I thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was a good thing because I think we need a cool-headed, ruthless assassin to go in and basically take on the woke mob, take on our out-of-control government, and take on problems like the ones at the border. So, again, I thought it made you sound great, even though that may not have been their intention.
Well, look, at the end of the day, this whole business that we're in is about producing results. I don't care about fanfare. You know, I'm the governor, like that is, I'm known, right? And I go around the state and everything, and people are very nice. And so, I mean, I appreciate the well wishes, but I don't need any of the fanfare. I don't need any adulation. I just know I'm in a position where I have a chance to make a difference, and I'm either doing it or I'm not. And I remember sitting at the desk in the state capitol my first day as governor 4.5 years ago. I looked around the room and I thought to myself, I don't know what SOB is going to succeed me in this chair, but they are not going to have anything to do because I'm getting all the meat off the bone. I am going to make sure that I'm leaning into issues and making an impact. And we have done that in the state of Florida. And I bring that exact attitude up to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Governor, I'd love to jump in and follow up on that. This is Chris Rufo, and I've had the honor of working with you in the past few years on critical race theory, gender ideology, and the DEI bureaucracy. And what I've seen up close and personal is that while many conservative politicians, going back decades, have made headlines and got on television playing culture war, they never actually get anything done. And what you've done over the last few years is really astonishing. You've eliminated CRT from all Florida's public institutions. You've stopped gender ideology dead in its tracks in K through 12. And just last week, you eliminated the DEI bureaucracy in all of Florida's public universities. They'll be shut down completely. And I think what you've done is established a blueprint for fighting back against the left's long march of the institutions and making sure that those institutions reflect the value of Florida voters, not left-wing activists and the partisan press. So my question for you is, DC is another animal. It's quite different, the scale of the federal government. And how are you going to deliver results? And what is your culture war strategy facing down the swamp in DC?
Well, some of it is similar in this respect. When we're taking on things like DEI, you get blowback from legacy media and the far left. But that's an example of an issue where they are out of step with the vast majority of Americans.
Audio
It's
levels,
not just
please.
Republicans. It's independents and a lot of Democrats, because you think about if you're a parent and you've got kids, you want to know when they apply to college, they're going to be judged based on their merit. And they're not going to be roadkill in some type of woke Olympics where they didn't fit some category and so they're denied opportunity. They want to make sure that achievement matters. And so we get a lot of quiet support for a lot of those things. And so I think what I do, just because, look, I'm a blue collar kid. I grew up in the Tampa Bay area, working minimum wage to get through school. My grandfather worked in the steel mill in Western Pennsylvania. I just know instinctively kind of what like normal people think about all this stuff. And I have a good sense of when the legacy media and the left are outside of where the average American is, because people want you to be using common sense. And things like DEI, I mean, when I was growing up, I think things were better because people were actually told you should try to get along. Now they're told you need to segregate. And it's just crazy that they're trying to do all this stuff. So by eliminating that, there's a lot of people that were really happy about that, including people that certainly are not traditional Republicans. And I think there's similar issues when you do in the federal level. It's also the case that there are some tools at the federal level that we don't necessarily have at the state level. For example, some of the problems with the university and the ideological capture, that didn't happen by accident, can trace back all the way to the accreditation cartels. Well, guess what? To become an accreditor, how do you do that? You've got to get approved by the U.S. Department of Education. So we're going to be doing alternative accreditation regimes where instead of saying you will only get accredited if you do DEI, you'll have an accreditor that will say, we will not accredit you if you do DEI. We want a colorblind, merit-based accreditation scheme. And so as president, controlling that agency, you can then approve other types of accreditation. So I think part of it is just knowing where are all the pressure points? How does it get to the point that we then see and that somebody like you will run a report on? Like when you see some of the outrageous stuff that's generated in some sociology department at a university, that didn't just happen out of thin air. There's a reason why we got to that point. And I think that there are some tools with the federal government where you can push back and try to get these institutions moored in a more foundational direction about, hey, we're pursuing truth here. And we're not here to try to impose one niche ideology on the entire student body.
Great. Shifting gears, Dana Lash, you have a question or comment for the governor?
I do. And thank you both so much for your time, for joining us in a very new way. I really appreciate that. I think it's really cool. And for your support of free speech too. And Elon, I have to say thank you for taking the arrows and for unthrottling the accounts of all of us who got in trouble for sharing a New York Post story about a laptop. And Governor, I wanted to thank you for your leadership and your unwavering support of Second Amendment rights. And you're on my program tomorrow, and I just got to say, you got my vote in the primary, so I appreciate it very much. You were talking about DEI just a minute ago, and I want to ask you both about this growing threat against natural rights and free enterprise. It's this threat of debanking. Now, I know that, Elon, I've read so much about you and what you've gone through. You've called ESG criteria evil incarnate. Governor Desantis, Florida, saw financially weaponized wokery earlier this year when Wells Fargo Bank dumped both the business and personal accounts of a very prominent and well-respected gun dealer in Florida. They'd been together for 25 years working with Wells Fargo, and they cited new ESG guidelines. Now, similar to the DOJ's previous Operation Choke Point, all these activists for various causes are using this regulatory guidance to debank what they consider to be politically incorrect businesses for the sake of risk management. Now, we say that our rights should not be infringed upon by the government, but what can and should be done about activist-guided financial institutions and these payment processors who are essentially cutting off law-abiding citizens and businesses?
Well, I think it's a fundamental issue that I think not enough conservatives have been wise to. I think more and more are. But at the end of the day, we have certain fundamental rights. And so maybe you're somebody that is, really excited about your Second Amendment rights. And obviously, if the government comes in and infringes that, we know you blow the whistle on that. That's a problem. But what if Wall Street banks are colluding so that somebody can't function in that space, whether it's running a store or anything involving that? Your rights are still being infringed upon in that situation. And so I think this whole ESG movement is really trying to do through the financial sector what they could never achieve through the ballot box. And so they're trying to do an end run around the constitutional system, and they're really trying to change policy. They're trying to change society, and they're trying to change the scope of people's rights. And so in Florida, I just signed anti-ESG legislation, which said things like no ESG criteria in our pension fund. We got a $180 billion state pension fund. No social credit scores for consumers when they're going to bank. In other words, if you apply for a loan, that loan should be judged based on your credit worthiness, not whether you're genuflecting to the appropriate left-wing causes. But one thing we did do is we did provide protection against this debanking with the woke banking. No discrimination based on your religion and other things, which we know is happening. So I think it's a fundamental question, but we will not be a free society if major financial institutions can do through the economy what people could not achieve through the ballot box. Our rights will be restricted, will be the end result, and that's not healthy for a free country.
As a follow-up to that, Governor, Dana mentioned Operation Choke Point, and that is a term that's very familiar to crypto companies in Silicon Valley and fintech companies. Basically, it refers to an effort by the federal government, including the SEC, to basically regulate blockchain and crypto companies out of existence. They really feel like they're being driven out of the country. And I'm not talking about scammy ones or the totally fake ones like FTX, but really high quality, good companies, including companies that are public like Coinbase. And these guys are basically begging the government for just a framework. They're just like, tell us how to operate legally and we'll do it. I guess where do you come down on this? What is your view, I guess, broadly of Bitcoin and people's right to hold Bitcoin and to transact Bitcoin?
And Dogecoin.
You have every right to do Bitcoin. The only reason these people in Washington don't like it is because they don't control it. And they're central planners and they want to have control over society. And so Bitcoin represents a threat to them. And so, as you're saying, they're trying to regulate it out of existence. Look, could Congress enact a statute to ban things like Bitcoin under the Constitution? They may be able to do. I would oppose that. I think people should be able to do Bitcoin. But Congress has never addressed this in this fashion, and for the bureaucracy to just do it on their own and make it so people can't operate in that space. That's what we mean when we say we've got to return the government to the people's elected representatives who are our voice to be able to make these decisions. And so as president, we'll protect the ability to do they can make.
You gotta be kidding me. They lost the feed again?
Everything that people may be doing in this space. And I think that the current regime, clearly, they have it out for Bitcoin. And if it continues for another 4 years, they'll probably end up killing it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that is the strong feeling of people in Silicon Valley who are in this space. And I think we'll be heartened to hear your answer on that. I mean, the weird thing is that, and there is a huge constituency of crypto Twitter. So for people who are maybe part of political Twitter who are wondering why we're talking about this, it really has a big audience for this topic.
Dogecoin too, I just want to emphasize. It's a big deal.
Yeah, Bitcoin and Dogecoin. So shout out to all the Doge fans out there. Yeah. But the weird thing is that this administration, they seem to want to ban Bitcoin, but they want to create a CBDC, which stands for a central bank digital currency. What's your take on that?
So we were the first state just last month. We actually got the Florida legislature to pass a law that says Florida does not recognize central bank digital currency, because some states were actually adding that to their uniform commercial code. The federal government's studying this. We did the opposite and say we didn't. Now, the reason why we did that is because what the Federal Reserve has said is, we're going to consult with Congress. We'll consult with the executive branch. We don't have a CBDC right now. And ideally, we would get authorization for Congress. Well, wait a minute. It's not ideally. You must get authorization from Congress. I don't think Congress would authorize it. So if they unilaterally try to do this, we're trying to provide protection for people here in Florida. I know Biden did the executive order. They're studying it. I can tell you, if I'm president, we are not doing a central bank digital currency. I think huge imposition on people's financial freedoms and financial privacy. And oh, by the way, what would the logical result of this be? If the central authority has oversight over this, of course they're going to start imposing ESG criteria. Oh, wait a minute, you filled up your gas tank 3 times this week. You can't do any more. The sky of how they would be able to manipulate this. So I see it as a massive transfer of power from individual consumers to a central authority, and I don't think that that's good for a free society. So I'm a no on central bank digital currency.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
great.
Well, Governor, I want to thank you for the time. We could go for hours here, but I know you only had an hour and we've gone over that. So I want to be respectful of your time. I know there's so many people who want to ask questions, and we should
do it again. I mean, I think it was fun. I think this is great. And we'll make sure that that we come back and do it again. This is a great platform. I mean, I would like to see other platforms going in the same direction, but a healthy democratic society needs the robust debate. So I just want to thank everybody for listening in. And I'll just make that pitch again. We want you on the team. We'd love for you to go to rondesantis.com and make a donation so that we can get this done on this nomination and win the election in November of 2024. God bless everybody, and thank you.
Well, thanks, Governor. And yeah, we have over 300,000 people in the room. It's really been pretty incredible. And, we started with some technical issues because of the sheer scale of and unprecedented nature of what we were doing. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I think this finished really strong. So,
yeah, I think it's just really great for the people to hear directly from presidential candidates and to have it in a conversational tone, which obviously results in, it's going to be imperfect because it's not scripted. So, but it's genuine. And I think that really gives the people an opportunity to understand who might be their president in a way that's real. So thank you very much for coming on and doing this.
And the invitation's open to any other candidates who might want to do this.
Absolutely. It is important for people to hear directly from candidates. So thank you for working with us on this historic event. And looking forward to future conversations and just having a great.
Wow. He kind of, it was a fail. Disaster, technically. People will remember the technical problems. They won't remember what he said. Terrible. Bad. No, and you know what? No excuse. Really. This is a guy who wants to be president of the United States, literally has a shot, like a really good shot. Goes with Twitter, a new platform within the platform, this Twitter Spaces, audio only. Doesn't even have to worry about video. No logistics in terms of putting together he doesn't even have to set up chairs in a room. You just have to get the audio mix right and send it out on social media. They own the platform. They own Twitter. They have their own servers. They have their own technical people. This is a guy, Elon Musk, who wants to send people to Mars, owns SpaceX. He's a technical guy. He has background in social media finance. He has a background making electric cars and autonomous driving. He's supposed to be super smart. He's supposed to be surrounded by a bunch of super smart people. They run the social media platform day in, day out. You would think that when you have an event of this magnitude, that you would do a couple of dry runs, that you would get everything set up beforehand to make sure that it all functions properly. And disaster. I mean, disaster. And it is a disaster for Ron DeSantis because tonight look, I'm going to bring up the reaction that we're getting on Twitter tonight. This is a disaster for him, folks. Wow. Even the Biden thing, there was something going on with Biden-Harris tonight that worked better. Are you seeing this? Yeah. Okay. So let me just bring it up here. Oops. Fascist Florida Governor Ron DeSantis officially announces his run for president. Well, that's not. Failure to launch. That seems to be the the new phrase, not preparing to launch. Failure to launch. That's from Goth Brooks. Oh, and here's a video from Trump mocking the failure to launch. Let's see. I can't run that because of the audio. Let me see if we can do it without the audio. Yeah, whatever. Oh.
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House.
It doesn't take long for this stuff to get online, does it? Yep. Oh my goodness. Yeah, much hyped Ron DeSantis presidential announcement, a disaster on Twitter. Amateur hour. Yep. Unbelievable. Yeah. So this all from, a lot of this from the conservative Republican side. Not good. He does not look good. Terrible. And there's another one crashing. DeSantis campaign, Tesla's Twitter Spaces. It was a disaster, man. Look at this. Oh, man. Crash and burn, baby. Airplane. If you're just listening on the podcast version of this broadcast, we're just looking at posts on Twitter, and this one has DeSantis 2024 and a jetliner crashing into the ground and blowing up. Oh my. Terrible. Terrible. What a disaster. Oh, this one.
Nobody has used our communication staff to campaign.
Dumpster
So there's
fire.
nobody has used our communication staff to campaign. So there's nobody has used our communication staff to campaign. So there's nobody has used our communication staff to campaign.
So there he is riding in a dumpster.
Nobody has used our
in a flood. Oh. Yeah. Here's this. Trump's laughing in this GIF. Oh. Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Make America great again.
Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless America.
Oh, yeah. I love it. That was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. So if you're just listening again, that was a meme of a Trump rocket launching into space and then a kid pumping up like a model rocket with a bicycle pump. And it just was a total fail. Anyway, yeah, here's this here's a promo for DeSantis that
our border
ran
is a
beforehand.
disaster. Crime infests our cities. The federal government makes it harder for families to make ends meet, and the president flounders. But decline is a choice. Success is attainable, and freedom is worth fighting for. Righting the ship requires restoring sanity to our society, normalcy to our communities, and integrity to our institutions. Truth must be our foundation. and common sense can no longer be an uncommon virtue. In Florida, we proved that it can be done. We chose facts over fear, education over indoctrination, law and order over rioting and disorder. We held the line when freedom hung in the balance. We showed that we can and must revitalize America. We need the courage to lead and the strength to win. I'm Ron DeSantis, and I'm running for president to lead our great American comeback.
So the disaster really wasn't entirely the fault of DeSantis. His mistake was just putting too much trust, too much faith in the people at Twitter to get this done. But I suppose he only has so much control over what they do to prepare and what they do with their platform. And as you heard them say at the end of the broadcast with him, that they would be willing to do it with any candidate. So they're not necessarily just doing this for him. Nevertheless, he chooses to make the actual announcement right there, relies only on them for the exclusive feed. Mistake, in my view. This turns out to be a technical disaster. This cuts him off at the knees right at the starting gate. He's not even running yet. I mean, he just announces, and what a disaster. I mean, he did, during his initial address, talk about supporting veterans, being tough on crime, talked about climate change and his hardline position on that. Also said that the United States can no longer afford to keep its borders open. Hammered on the immigration issue, saying that the U.S. can't just continue to allow millions of immigrants to pour into the country without properly being processed at the border. He's talking about reestablishing confidence in the institutions of the United States, the government itself, police, all different institutions. And then you heard him say, even in that promo, and he said this in his opening address, he used that phrase, they held the line. I don't know if that was intentionally a nod to the Freedom Convoy in Canada or the People's Convoy in the United States, but he's using all the right terminology, all the right phrases, hitting on all the right talking points. The problem is most of it didn't get broadcast. So that was an error in judgment on his part, I suppose, in putting so much faith just in Twitter, especially just a new platform. He would have had a lot more, would have achieved a lot more, I think, if he had opened it up more to just mainstream media all the way across, done something, if he had done something just more traditional, spoke in front of a crowd. And I think that works better anyway, because you have more energy, you know, you have a big crowd. But I think maybe one of the reasons he chose to do it this way is because Trump at his rallies always attracts a gigantic crowd. So who wants to be compared to that? If you can't put together a rally on the same scale as your main competitor, then the optics maybe aren't that great. So you do something with no optics, you go audio only. Maybe that is what they were thinking. I don't know. It could have worked okay, but not the way this went down. Looping audio feedback, the constant annoying echo, playing those clips from the beginning, which were somehow recorded or maybe even pre-recorded, playing them over and over and over again on top of what was going on. And then they say it was the server crashing because of all the people watching. I have no doubt that they had a lot of people tuning in or logging on, is more accurate. But those audio problems, that wasn't the server issue. That was the result of bad audio mixing, poor production. You'd think with all the money that he has and all the resources at his disposal, and the fact that he owns the platform and everything in there, that he would have very competent people at the helm of this thing tonight because it was historic, potentially. Maybe not so much now, right out of the starting gate. He's crippled. He's being mocked. He doesn't look good, doesn't look competent. And if you want to be the leader of the free world, you better know what you're doing and know how to get things organized, you know? Not good. Not good at all. And the latest polling, as I said, Trump already way out in front with 69% support. Nobody else is even close. DeSantis, I think, was at 16%. He could catch him. Politics is a strange game. There's a lot of ground to cover between now and nomination day, but not like that. You better go back. Oh man, they're going to have some heated discussions, I think, in their postmortem on this one. Yeah, man, and this is for all the marbles, you know. This is to become the president of the most powerful, theoretically, the most powerful country in the world, with the most powerful military at your disposal. You become the guy that they follow around with the football, the guy that would have to make the decision on whether or not you push the big button. Wow. And people are saying I'm not on Rumble, but I am on Rumble. We are broadcasting on Rumble. I put the feed in the Rumble, or the link to the Rumble channel in the comments section. I'll put it in here again. I don't know why people are not finding me on Rumble tonight, but here it is. I put the link right there in the chat. And I'm looking, and yeah, we're there. And we do have, a fair number of people watching. So I don't know why sometimes people have trouble finding us, and it's the right channel. Everything seems to be firing properly. We have people in the chat. Hello, Tarface there. I see. We have Steve Charles Harvey. Hello. We have PDS 10. Hello. Not a lot of people in the chat over here. Not as many as maybe we normally have. Lake 10 is there. Mimsical Renegade. Hello. Oh, there's Lori. Hello, Lori. Is Choosy in there? Yeah. So Pissed Off Dragon's in there too. Hello, sir. Oh, there's Mouth of the South. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're in there. Yep, here we are. Yeah, 20 something. Yep, we're on Rumble. We're there. We're there. We're there. And speaking of PDS, we had that contest the other night to see who would win a free t-shirt because it was FU Friday. And Leo said, whoever emails in with the correct number of FUs from his rant last Friday would win a free t-shirt. So I did receive some responses, and I counted 95. It was a fast and furious, what would be the right way to describe it? Well, it was a flurry of FUs, a fast and furious flurry of FUs from Leo. I counted 95 in the time that he was on. And we had two winners because one person guessed 95 and the other person guessed 129 or something. And you're both getting t-shirts because you were the first two to email in. And I set two aside. And even though they were two totally different numbers, I don't care because some of the FUs were delivered with such passion and such fury that they counted for two. So both answers are correct as far as I'm concerned. And those t-shirts did go out. And I have to remember, because I was so busy today, who won those things? I think it was PDS. That's why I was reminded. And was it Gary? Anyway, you guys will know you won when you get them in the mail. They went out. And got Congratulations on winning your Maverick t-shirts. I don't remember who it was that won. It doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure it was PDS, and I think Gary won. Yeah, so congrats. And thank you, Leo, for your flurry of FUs on FU Friday. Let's take a brief break. I will return with more news of the day. We'll talk about the wildfire situation out in Western Canada and why it isn't just Western Canada that's burning, it's the entire country politically.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The wildfire situation out in Western Canada is improving, folks. Yes, it is. It was only last week we were up around 108 or 109 wildfires in Alberta alone. Of course, we're seeing wildfires in Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, out in Western Canada. Alberta seems to have been, the hottest of all the hot spots. A lot of upset people, very worried homeowners, a lot of turmoil out there, and a lot of controversy on social media. We bring you now the latest from today's news conference with officials in Alberta updating us on what's going on with the wildfire situation out there. And we're down now, I think, under 60, but let's see what they have to say.
Progress in the fight against the wildfires thanks to recent precipitation and improved weather, as well as the tremendous efforts of firefighters and Albertans who are paying attention to restrictions and guidelines. In the past 24 hours, some communities have announced re-entry plans, while others are preparing for re-entry. Nevertheless, the threat of wildfires continues, and residents need to remain vigilant. Alberta continues to be under a provincial state of emergency, and the Provincial Emergency Coordination Center remains at a level 4. There are currently 21 states of local emergency, 5 band council resolutions, and an estimated 7,243 people remain evacuated at this time. Right now, 8 reception centers are open for affected areas, and the total number of evacuation orders now stands at 11. The Edmonton Reception Center closed yesterday, and the Calgary Reception Center will be ceasing operations this afternoon. For up-to-date information on reception center locations, please visit alberta.ca/emergency. It is encouraging to see that the residents of Ochese First Nation, Swan Hills, Fox Creek, and Little Smoky are returning home. Residents of these communities should ensure they are closely following their local authorities' re-entry instructions to make sure the process goes smoothly. There is also helpful information on alberta.ca/emergency for how to re-enter safely. It is also crucial to remember that many residents who are returning home will continue to be on evacuation alert, as is the case in Swan Hills. This means that residents should still have a bag packed and a plan in place for evacuating again, should it be necessary. As other evacuated communities are preparing their reentry plans, I want to once again encourage evacuees to listen to information from reliable sources, such as your local authority, or go to alberta.ca/emergency. We know that all evacuees want to get home as quickly as possible. Emergency officials are working hard to fight these fires, but this situation is extremely challenging and safety is always their top priority. As well, before evacuees can return home, local officials need to make sure the community has its critical infrastructure restored. Things such as utilities, grocery stores, healthcare facilities, and other essential supplies and services need to be in place. If your community is still under evacuation order, it means that there is still a threat from a wildfire that is burning and could continue to grow. That's why we encourage you to keep checking with your local authority. They'll provide information on their reentry plans through their social media and websites. They need to ensure that conditions are safe before evacuees can return home.
Yeah, just pull out of that for a moment. You know, I just want to point out that I know that on social media, there has been so much negative, and so much distrust in the public institutions that it has actually put people's safety in jeopardy. And the hype has reached such a fever pitch out there that I've even heard at times that those reception centers were concentration camps. I mean, these are community centers basically set up to receive people who have been evacuated from their homes and they have no place to go. And so they take them there initially in order to help them in a time of need. And we're seeing tonight that the one in Edmonton is now closed because people are being allowed to, in many cases, go back to their homes. And so I know that things have been bad over the past 3 years, but it's important to keep our heads screwed on straight because some people have been exploiting the situation in order to get people angry, in order to scare people, in order to get them maybe to do things they ought not do, or maybe that wasn't the direct intent, but that certainly has been in some cases the result, and I will discuss that more in a moment.
Mm. 31,000 hectares. The extreme rate of growth we saw on these wildfires earlier this month has now slowed. Over the past 2 days, firefighters have been able to make significant progress on wildfires on the landscape. They've continued to build and reinforce fire breaks near communities and work on extinguishing hotspots inside the perimeter of wildfires. They're taking advantage of cooler, wetter conditions and more settled fire behavior to make progress on containing these fires. Thanks to these conditions, only one new wildfire has been detected in Alberta since yesterday. Many Albertans are happy to see the rain, none more than those who've been evacuated from their homes. To them, I will say that while conditions are helping, there's still work to do to contain these wildfires. We'll keep working hard on the ground and in the air, and we'll be providing municipalities with as much information as we can to help them make the decision on when to lift their evacuation orders. For those who are heading home, please remember that even if the status has changed, these are still active wildfires. Please allow firefighters the space to continue their work and stay out of burned out areas. Burned tree roots and ash pits can present hidden dangers, and people should always follow the direction of local authorities when re-entering their communities. New assistance in the firefighting effort is arriving every day. Today, we're welcoming a Hercules air tanker from California, which has the capacity to hold 3,000 gallons of water. Tomorrow, 25 firefighters from New Zealand will arrive, followed by nearly 200 from Australia over the weekend. We appreciate all of our partners who have come to help us through this record-breaking season. The season isn't over, And we're planning for what will be needed over the coming months to extinguish the large, complex wildfires that we've had this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. We will begin with questions in the room and then move to the phones. Please state your name and outlet. Each reporter will have one question and one follow-up. Are there any questions from reporters in the room? We'll now move to the phones. Operator, please put through the first call.
Nicole Weiberg, CTV. Oh, hi. I just wanted to ask about the situation near Fox Creek with people returning home today. You know, 1 week ago, you were saying that the fire was about 1K from the community. You know, it jumped to the highway. It was looking a little bit scary for a while there. I just wanted to know what ended up happening with the fire and how you were able to direct it away from the community.
Thanks, Nicole. The wildfire, the Eagle Complex is a series of fires, 2 wildfires that are in the vicinity of Fox Creek and the municipality Greenview, Little Smoky. And they are still technically classified as out of control, but we have seen a big difference in the fire activity on these fires and the amount of work that we've been able to do to assist in helping to contain the fire. The fire has not moved any closer to the community. It is still approximately 1 kilometer, but the main difference there is the amount of ground they've been able to cover in helping to work on reinforcing fire guards. We have had assistance there from the military with a significant number of boots on the ground there to help the work of going through and looking for hotspots and help the work of actually bringing this fire along in extinguishing parts of the fire inside the perimeter that could still flare up and show activity. So it has been a lot of work on the ground since where we were a week ago. And I believe, you know, the firefighters have been in communication with the community, letting them know how that fight is going and give them as much information as they possibly can so they can make decisions on when to bring people home safely.
And Nicole, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, maybe I could just ask, I guess, what you think the biggest factor for the change there was, whether it was the efforts of firefighters or whether it was the changing weather conditions.
Well, I will say the weather conditions gave firefighters a big helping hand because rain is not enough to actually significantly change a wildfire that's burning out of control to suddenly become extinguished. There is a lot of work that's done by people on the ground, directing the wildfire, working on extinguishing areas that may still flare up. And so I think that's the work that in the long term makes a difference on how the fire is going to behave.
Operator, do we have any more calls?
There are no other questions on the phone at this time.
That concludes today's update on the Alberta wildfires. Please note a media situation report will be distributed later.
Okay. Let's bring up the Alberta wildfire dashboard just to get the absolute most accurate, up-to-date info on what the current situation is on the ground. 57 active wildfires in Alberta right now, tonight. And out of control, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20, 22, 20, about 23. About 2 less than from yesterday. The number is down to 57. I think it was 68 yesterday. A week ago, we were at about 108 or 109. So absolutely some positive things happening there. Situation is looking better every day right now. Hopefully that trend continues. And that looks very encouraging. Also spoke to some people out there today who also seem to be a little bit more optimistic and more upbeat. Some people that I had been speaking to waiting for the green light to get back to their homes. We're allowed to do that today. And some other people who were also hoping to get their government assistance, about $1,250. Some of those people have also received that. Now, on the bad side of things, social media, again, we've seen some people urging folks to go around police barricades, take matters into your own hands. Government's incompetent. Yeah, I know the government's not perfect. Government's far from perfect. Government has a lot of problems. But they're there and they have a job to do, and they're putting out the fires. You're seeing that there is positive momentum in that way. And we've also seen at least 2 incidents now where people have almost died because they did go around police barricades and they took matters into their own hands. And I would say that anybody advising folks to do that is being irresponsible. Yes, there is a time and a place to protect your property, spray water on it, but only to a point. There comes a point when you have to leave in order to stay safe. We've discussed all of that. But all the rhetoric that we're hearing online and all of this anti-government discussion has resulted in some pretty negative things happening out there. It has put people's safety in jeopardy, and it has also, I would say, led to things like this. And I can't say for sure if this person on Twitter was reacting specifically to anything most recently about the wildfires, but certainly this person has been engaged in a lot of the online negative rhetoric. So this is Mark Thomas, and his tweets received a lot of scrutiny over the last couple of days from the RCMP, and no doubt CSIS as well. He tweeted, because everybody is like, we can't have the NDP come back in, and there's been a lot of negative talk about the $15 million that the NDP cut from the budget when they were in power for wildfire control. I absolutely understand. That was a terrible thing, stupid thing to do, absolutely inept. But a tweet like this will get you into trouble. He writes here, if for some reason they claim that Notley won the election, Alberta will be in a civil war. The only way they win is by cheating, and we won't stand around and wait for a court date if they cheat. We will hop in our trucks and we will hunt every last one of them down and hold them accountable. I hope this is a warning to any of you NDP Fs who figure you're going to cheat. We will find you and we will remove you. Signed, Alberta landowners. Okay, so that's pretty aggressive. As a result, Mr. Thomas apparently had a pretty bad day. RCMP taking note. He had his tweet retweeted and tweeted and retweeted and retweeted. It went a little bit viral. Is that right, Queenie? Is that facts? Is it? Right. Okay, well, this guy had his Twitter account banned. I'd be surprised if he's not in jail. I don't think he deals in facts, Queenie. My advice to everyone out there is be careful what you say. Be careful what you post on social media, because it's likely going to be seen by people. And when it's seen by people, a lot of people, you can get into a lot of trouble. Not wise. You need to choose your words carefully, especially if you don't mean it. If you don't really mean what you say, but you say something stupid that could get you into trouble, they don't care. Not only that, but politically, that was a disaster as well, because people on the anti-freedom side picked up on that, and they used it to discredit the freedom movement. went to town on that one. And the thread was long and robust. So that didn't do anybody any good. Not wise. Kind of dumb. That guy apparently also lost his job because as a result of tweeting that, it prompted many phone calls to his employer. And he later tweeted that he had been fired. Choose your words carefully, folks. Choose your words carefully. Not wise. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, I'm back. So yeah, I know that kind of talk has been not just isolated to Alberta, but it's also spreading across the country. And that's why tonight Canada, in many respects, is on fire nationwide. It's volatile out there. It's volatile. Try and keep your heads on straight. Keep your cool. Think. Don't let emotion get the better of you. Deal in real information. That's my editorial opinion and my advice this evening. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Enough of that for tonight. I'm tired of the BS, and I'm tired of the lies. Yeah. And I'm tired of the whitewash from the government side, that's for sure. The special rapporteur, again, no inquiry into the possibility, well, not the possibility, but the acknowledged foreign interference into Canada's electoral process. First up, let me go first to Rachel Notley, leader of the NDP in Alberta, where, of course, that election is happening. Before we get into all of the whitewash stuff from Mr. Johnston, the former Governor General, who was the special rapporteur for Justin Trudeau, looking into foreign interference. Here's Notley responding to a question today about a member of the provincial legislature who was turfed from the United Conservative Party caucus because of a comment that was made comparing transgender children to feces in, was it ice cream? I believe something like that. Anyway, Danielle Smith saying that, potentially this person could come back, and Notley taking exception to it today.
It's Hannah Said from City News. Following up to what you said about Danielle Smith changing her stance on Jennifer Johnston. Even today, she did not take the questions, and she said that she will not be allowed to sit in the caucus. Why do you think she's saying that? She's also talked about redemption in the past for Jennifer Johnston. Do you think she's not tackling the issue right now because she's unclear on her stance for the future?
I think that Danielle Smith has a lot of people in and around her party who hold the similar extremist views as Jennifer Johnston. Jennifer Johnston is not the first candidate to articulate those opinions. And it's very clear that the UCP that Danielle Smith is leading right now is not the same UCP that we had 4 years ago, that people with extremist views have a much bigger voice in that party. We saw that today with the statements taken by Arthur Pawlowski as well, and so that's why she's hedging, because too many folks who share those offensive views actually, unfortunately, have a place in the UCP right now.
Sorry, just to follow up. Do you think there are chances of Jennifer Johnston coming back to the caucus? That's why she's not saying anything definitive right now, Daniel Smith?
I'm sorry, pardon me?
Daniel Smith is not saying anything definitive right now because there are chances that Jennifer Johnston might be back in the caucus after redemption.
Yeah, I think it's very likely that Daniel Smith will welcome Jennifer Johnson back into their caucus, notwithstanding the fact that she has articulated some of the most hurtful, hateful statements about some of the most vulnerable young children that we have seen in this province ever. And I think the fact that that is the case goes to the issue of leadership, and the fact that she won't speak to it goes to the issue of trust. And these are both important issues in this upcoming election.
G'day, Emma Graney with the Globe and Mail. What do you think this election here in Alberta means for Canada more broadly?
You know, that's a very big picture. I think right now I'm most focused on this election being about Albertans. I think I'm most focused about ensuring that in this election, Albertans are able to choose a government that will be there for Albertans, that will protect and restore our healthcare, that will work with those 190 emergency room physicians we heard from this morning, that will ensure stability in terms of our government as a whole and in terms of our economic future and our economic path going forward. Obviously, I'm a Canadian. I care about our country. I have always been of the view that we don't need to take back Alberta. Alberta needs to lead Canada. And that is exactly my view of what an Alberta led by the Alberta NDP will focus on doing.
But surely, Alberta is one of the Canadian economic leaders, right? So there must be some broad implications. And then further to that, then how does an Alberta NDP differ from NDPs in other parties or indeed federally?
Well, I think the key issue is not how we differ or not differ. I think what the key issue is that an Alberta NDP government will be absolutely laser focused on growing the economic performance and the economic capacity of Alberta and Albertans, both within the province and as part of Canada and as a proportion of Canada's economic growth. I think there are very important decisions that need to be taken. I think we need to be, as a province, ambitiously looking to where the economy is moving and making sure that we take our rightful place there. And so, as far as I'm concerned, all of that work must be done and coordinated and planned through the lens of ensuring the best for Albertans, the greatest number of jobs, the most fairness for Albertans, the most economic prosperity for Albertans.
Hi, there's billions of dollars of carbon capture projects right now that are being proposed for the province, everything from power generation to the oil sands to the cement industry. What specifically would you do to try and activate that, and how much would it cost if you've got any programs designed to incent those projects?
Well, I think first of all, I think that's a really important issue. We do need, as a provincial government, to very quickly get to work on getting so many of those CCUS and other projects over the finish line, getting them to start. The federal government has stepped up to do some of that work. I think there is more for the federal government to do now that we've seen the Inflation Reduction Act and the incentives that are being offered south of the border. But it's also very possible that there is a role for the provincial government to play. Now, we've already talked about our Alberta Futures tax credit, but there may be more for us to do. But I think that's something that honestly needs to be negotiated with some of the players. Through, again, the lens of ensuring the best deal for Albertans and making sure that it makes sense for Albertans in terms of the benefit that comes back to Albertans. And of course, the companies themselves also need to be prepared to come to the table to make their own investments in ensuring that they're reducing their emissions and that the product that they produce is one that, of course, will attract more space in international markets.
Okay, enough of her. That's Rachel Notley, leader of the NDP out in Alberta. They're right in the middle of that election day coming up, I think, within days. And It's really a two-way race at this point between the United Conservative Party and Danielle Smith and Rachel Notley's New Democratic Party. These other parties, the Solidarity Party, Independence Party, not fielding enough candidates to form a government, even if they did get them all elected, in my estimation. So they would, potentially hold a balance of power if they were to get, enough people elected, but don't hold your breath on that one. Also seeing in the comments here, push back on me saying, I guess I'm just not full of enough doom and gloom on the whole wildfire situation. If it makes you feel better, I can sit here and depress you. And I can lie like a lot of the other live streamers, tell you lies like, oh yeah, they want to burn everyone's homes down so they can bring in the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. I'm hearing that. How does that make any sense? How does destroying everyone's home help bring in a digital central bank digital currency? If everyone's homeless and on the streets, they're not going to be working. They won't have any money, either physical, fiat currency, or digital. There won't be any wealth because you will have destroyed everyone's equity. The banks will crash because, or the insurance companies might go under. It would be a huge burden on the economy. Like, what does that have to do? Even if they did burn down everybody's house, what is it with this? Doesn't even make sense. Sorry, I don't mean to single you out there, but it doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous. Let's burn everyone's houses down. I mean, that's what I was hearing from the very beginning. The government is setting all the fires to corral people into concentration camps so they can take the province. Why does the government need to take over the province? They already have the province. Makes no sense. None whatsoever. And now I'm saying, yeah, but I see that they arrested a guy for setting fires. So it is arson. Yeah. I pointed out from the very beginning, I went through all the stats. Every single year, whenever they have the wildfires, between 50 and 60% are started by human beings. In some cases, it's accidental. It's from trains. It's from campfires that are not properly extinguished, cigarette butts, blah, 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 all these different reasons. And in some cases, it is arson, between 50 and 60% consistently, statistically. And that's the reality every single year. But I know the story that everybody's referring to in the chat tonight. And also, there is conflation there. It is not really accurate what people are saying. Again, the information is being interpreted in a way to suit a narrative that is designed to simply scare people and get everybody jacked up. Here's the story. Charges laid in a string of deliberately set fires in Alberta, including a fire that destroyed a church. But these fires were set before these wildfires. In August of 2022, police began an investigation into several wildfires in Hilda Lake, Cold Lake Provincial Park. August 2022. On September 9th, they were called to Cherry Grove, Alberta, rodeo grounds. Wooden platform was deliberately set on fire. They've arrested a 29-year-old Cherry Grove man. He's been charged with 10 counts of arson. Cherry Grove is 290 kilometers northeast of Edmonton. These fires are not related, from the information that we have from the charges laid and the subsequent arraignment, I would expect, not related to these wildfires. Not these ones. But no doubt some of these fires were intentionally set. I like to deal in facts. Sorry. We can talk about the lizard people eating brains if you want, but it's not really true either. Just saying. Just saying. It's just the way it is. Okay, the special rapporteur, David Johnston. Trudeau addressing it again today. Johnston, the former Governor General, after looking at the issue of foreign interference into Canada's electoral process, no doubt in my mind that he's kind of whitewashing this whole thing. Won't serve him well. It's going to damage his reputation, and the lack of transparency is also going to hurt Justin Trudeau. But Trudeau is supporting the decision. There will be no inquiry. There will be some hearings, but not providing the kind of public involvement and transparency that a full-blown inquiry would provide. Here's Trudeau today again. Any questions about this issue?
Okay, CTV National.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Jill Makashon with CTV National News. Part of the findings from David Johnston, still on the interference questions, said that these leaks, the person behind these leaks, he said that malice cannot be ruled out. Do you believe the leaks were done in malice?
I think Mr. Johnston's report speaks for itself, and I can certainly say that the relevant authorities, including the RCMP, are looking into and following up on these leaks.
Global.
Hi, Prime Minister. Marnie Blunt from Global News. The leader of the opposition says he doesn't trust the tools that your government has in place to fight foreign interference, including the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians. That's overseen by your office, so why not have that committee reporting to Parliament rather than your office?
I think it is worth remembering that on questions of national security, the government that Pierre Poilievre was part of, Stephen Harper's government, refused to allow any oversight or any public accounting or transparency for parliamentarians of national security. And indeed, in that 2015 election, we proposed to create a mechanism whereby parliamentarians from all different parties would be able to engage with and oversee everything our national security agencies do. This was something that Pierre Poilievre campaigned against in 2015. He didn't think parliamentarians from all different parties should be able to dive in deeply to everything that our security agencies would do. That was one of the big issues around national security that we had an election on in 2015. Now, Mr. Poilievre is choosing to be consistent in his being consistently wrong, in that he still doesn't think parliamentarians of all different parties should get the security clearances necessary to dig into what our intelligence services and agencies are doing. But we know it is reassuring for Canadians to know that it's not just the government and one particular party that's in power making sure that our intelligence agencies are both doing everything necessary to protect Canadians and abiding by the laws and the rules and the values that are so important to Canadians, but that it's parliamentarians from all different parties. Now, why Mr. Poilievre continues to be against transparency and why he continues to say, and this is really important, that the work that Mr. Johnston's doing is not serious and is not correct, when he refuses so far to actually see the information and the intelligence that underpins the conclusions of Mr. Johnston. Now, everyone here will understand that when it comes to matters of national security, when it comes to spies and foreign intelligence, we cannot share publicly a lot of the very sensitive and secret work they do to keep Canadians safe every day. But we have offered to the leaders of all the parties in the House the capacity to get the security clearances necessary so that they can look at that raw intelligence themselves and see that the conclusions that Mr. Johnston drew are the right ones. And Pierre Poilievre is choosing to sit behind a veil of ignorance instead. He doesn't want the facts to get in the way of a good political argument or a personal attack. I think Canadians have to ask themselves the question, is that a serious leader? Is that a serious way to handle something as important as foreign countries trying to mess with our democracy, with our businesses, with our diaspora communities? On an issue like this, we have to be grounded in facts. That's what this government is doing. That's what David Johnston has done. That's what Pierre Poilievre refuses to do. En 2015, quand Stephen Harper était au pouvoir et quand Pierre Poilievre était au gouvernement de Stephen Harper, il y a eu de grands débats sur la sécurité nationale. Et moi, j'ai proposé, mon parti a proposé.
I'm not certain. I'm just throwing this out there. But I think accepting the opportunity to review and absorb classified and in some cases top secret intelligence information could actually put a member of parliament in a very difficult and compromising position. Because if it's top secret, you're sworn to secrecy. And if they show you information that is not in the best interests of Canadians and is maybe even proving corruption or some crime, but you're sworn to secrecy, you now can't talk about it. I'm not sure ethically where that leaves you. And I'm not sure legally where that leaves you. I need to think about this more. That might be why Poilievre has not embraced that idea. It may not be appropriate for opposition members of parliament to have access to that information when it's classified. And an inquiry would provide a process to have information declassified or made available in a manner that would allow members of parliament and others to have access to it, to see it, to review it, and act upon it in a proper process, legally. So what Trudeau is proposing here, while it may sound good on the surface, I'm not sure, and that's the point here too. I need to learn more about this, but I think it might actually be something of a trap.
Notre démocratie. Je pense que c'est une illustration très...
Enough of him. Enough of him for tonight. Let's go to Poilievre and see what he was saying about it today. Here we go. Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, same issue.
Intelligence Committee to do so? Yes. Okay. Oui. Okay. Any other words you can add, sir?
Look, we know Justin Trudeau has something to hide. It's clear. First, after the election happened, where we knew Beijing interfered, he hired this gentleman named Rosenberg to look into it. Who's Rosenberg? He's a former member of the Trudeau Foundation. which got $140,000 from Beijing. Then there was an outcry because all the intelligence that Trudeau knew about got leaked to the media, showing that Beijing interfered to help him win the election. So he said, okay, I'll hire someone called a special rapporteur. So who does he hire? His ski buddy, his chalet neighbor, his family friend, and of course, member of the Trudeau Foundation. And just to make sure that Mr. Johnson was not in a conflict of interest, they asked yet another person to look into that, who's a member of the Trudeau Foundation. Out of 40 million people in Canada, there's no one outside of the Trudeau Foundation qualified to look into any of this Justin Trudeau foreign interference scandal. This is ridiculous. Let's get back to common sense. I'm going to bring home control of our democracy to the common people in this country. Only a Pierre Poilievre government can do that.
Je vois la même réponse en français, s'il vous plaît.
Donc, Justin Trudeau a quelque chose à cacher. C'est sûr. Parce qu'après les élections.
So he's just in French, but yeah, you know, like, seems to me that Trudeau has gone to great lengths here to avoid having a full inquiry, thinking it's going to embarrass him. I would agree that that's really what he's thinking, but I think in the end, not having one is probably going to be bad for him anyway. Going to be bad for him anyway. So I think he's going to lose either way on this one. If he doesn't have anything to hide, why not just say, yeah, let's have an inquiry? Why not? Johnston acknowledged that there is foreign interference, so we know it's a problem. He acknowledged that. Let's get to the bottom of it.
Il faut mettre fin à cet scandale en mettant la lumière avec une vraie enquête publique et avec un vrai registre de l'influence étrangère. Merci.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre, Dustin Cook with the Globe and Mail. It seems to take a minister and other ministers that the powers would be more effective at getting to what the government needs.
Your mic did cut out there at the very end, so I wasn't able to hear the last part.
Sorry. Do you think that a judge with subpoena powers would be better to dig into election interference, despite what Mr. Johnson said about potential intelligence being compromised?
Yes, I do. I think a judge heading up a full public inquiry who has experience with national security cases would be best suited to decide what becomes public and what must remain privileged. When I'm prime minister, I will name a full public inquiry that includes an experienced judge who has the subpoena power to call any and all documents from the government and decide based on the facts and based on our national interest what share of that should be public. We have to put this in the hands of a trusted judge rather than in the hands of Trudeau's ski buddy, cottage neighbor, family friend, and Trudeau Foundation member.
Thank you, sir. My name is Kieran. I'm with the Canadian Press. You said yesterday that you wouldn't get security clearance to review classified materials David Johnson used to reach the conclusions of his report. You would get those security clearance if you were elected prime minister. What are the situations in which you think information should be kept secret for confidentiality concerns?
I'm afraid I'm having a hard time hearing some of the questions. There's a muffling of the mic. If you could repeat that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you mentioned yesterday that you wouldn't be looking, following David Johnson's report, you said you'd like a public inquiry.
Yeah.
But that couldn't be done, David Johnson said, because of security concerns. If you were elected prime minister, you would have clearance to security concerns if elected. I'm wondering what situations you think information should be kept secret or should be disclosed from the public.
Well, first of all, CSIS itself has said in its briefings to the Prime Minister and to the other members of the government that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Our intelligence community believes that the public should know about this. That's why members of CSIS or some other national security agencies are leaking this information to the media. They believe Canadians need to know. I think the public needs to know to what extent a foreign dictatorship is manipulating the decisions of our government and the elections that decide who is in government. And we should leave it to an experienced judge who's heard cases involving national security and sensitive information to decide what becomes public and what doesn't, and ultimately to rule on what occurred and what needs to happen to fix it.
Ryan Lilly, Toronto Sun. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
We've had this type of inquiry before with Maharar, where
Yes.
it was dealing with the most sensitive issues, and we survived that. You and the other opposition leaders have all called for a public inquiry still after the Johnston report. But what can you actually do in Parliament to try and force that? Are there tools that you will be looking to use? Slow down, boycott of Parliament? What specifically would you look to do when the House resumes?
Well, it's up to Jagmeet Singh, isn't it? Is Jagmeet Singh going to stay in his coalition with Justin Trudeau and help him cover up this latest scandal? Singh has helped Trudeau raise carbon taxes, release repeat violent criminals, cause the housing bubble. Is Singh going to help Trudeau cover up the interference of a hostile foreign dictatorship in our elections? He's Justin Trudeau's assistant in this cover-up. If Jagmeet Singh decides for once to do his job and work for Canadians instead of working for Justin Trudeau, then Parliament can force Trudeau to hold a full public inquiry.
Okay, this will be the last question.
Hello, Jamie with City TV. We're in Toronto here. We're in the middle of a mayoral election. And it doesn't matter whose campaign you look at, there is an extreme shortage of money for the city of Toronto. And that's echoed by every large city in Ontario. The funding formula for cities is not kept up with the pace of growth. Whether you look at operating expenses for public transportation or healthcare or a lot of those factors. Would you enter into funding cities in Ontario and Canada differently than they are funded now?
Yes, and I'll tell you how in a moment, but I just want to provide some context. Isn't it incredible that Justin Trudeau has doubled our national debt, added more debt than all previous prime ministers combined, while having every single federal seat in Toronto, and yet the city is still broke? How is it possible that after he doubled our debt, he didn't actually deliver for the biggest city in Canada, even though that city has elected nothing but Liberals in the last 3 elections? It proves that the Liberal MPs in Toronto are utterly useless and cannot deliver for the people of this city. They are utterly useless because they work for our out-of-touch and incompetent Prime Minister rather than working for Torontonians. Now, you asked about how I would fund cities. Well, we have a housing shortage in Canada. We have the fewest houses per capita of any country in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on, by far the most land to build on. Why do we have the fewest houses? Because government gatekeepers block construction. That adds as much as $600,000 to the cost of every home in some of our big cities. I will link the number of dollars that big cities get to the number of houses that get built. I will require every big city increase housing completions by 15% per year or lose infrastructure money. But there will be a carrot. Those that speed up and lower the cost of permits and free up land to build more homes will get a building bonus from the Poilievre government, because they will help put more houses in our communities so that young people can once again own a home in their 20s and start a family. In other words, I'm going to bring homes people can afford by getting the gatekeepers out of the way and letting builders build.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Oh, and transportation. I'm sorry, I forgot that. On transportation, I'm going to require every federally funded transit station be pre-zoned and pre-permitted for high-density housing and apartments. So we're going to have massive apartments around transit stations and even on top of transit stations. In Hong Kong, why do they make money on their transit system there? It's the only transit system in the world that runs a profit. Why? They build the housing right on top of the stations. They sell off the air rights, and then young people and seniors can get on the elevator, go down to the bottom floor, hop on the train and be at work or at their friend's place in 7 or 8 minutes. We need to pre-approve high-density housing around every single transit station so that our youth and our seniors don't even need to own a car. It's not just about more money. It's about removing the gatekeepers, unleashing construction, and bringing homes that our workers can afford. Thank you very much.
Okay. That's him. This is me. Here's a promo. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back. Where are you, sir? Hello. I saw your smiling face a moment ago. There you are.
What's
How
up?
you doing tonight? Well, welcome to the program.
Oh, I'm
I got-
privileged. I'm just curious why you wanted me
Privilege
to
is
jump
mine.
on.
I
I'm
got your
privileged.
attention. So, I see you're talking about the wildfires, and yeah. So, what is it that you're talking about?
You're not aware of this has been happening for 5 years, right?
No, I'm aware that it happens every year, and I went actually when this all started, I went over all the stats. I showed people all the
It's
numbers year over
Soros
year over
and
year. I'll go all
Antifa.
the way back to about 2018, 2017, I think.
Yeah,
But anyway,
2018.
yeah. So
2018 is when it started.
sure.
Yeah.
So your assertion is the government is
I
doing
already
this
told
on
you.
purpose.
I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid.
No.
It's George Soros. Okay. Antifa. George Soros, he pays a lot of money for people to do stupid shit. Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Portland. Do I have to go on what George Soros funds?
Oh no, hey man, I get that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an agenda. So what he does is he finds stupid kids, and this is why the kids are being injected with this whole stupid ideology of trendy genderism and all this crap.
Mhm.
It's to make them weak and make them sheep. Heaven forbid you got a wolf in the pack. Oh my God, heaven forbid, right?
Yeah.
Can't think on your own. Oh my Lord. Oh God, he's thinking on his own.
Well, I mean, there's no question. Like, and I've acknowledged that some of these fires absolutely are likely arson.
They're lit. They're lit.
You know, but I mean, I don't know how many. I want to deal in absolute facts. I don't want to scare people. I don't want to encourage people to do
can't do
stupid
that.
things that are going to get
Yeah,
them
exactly,
in trouble or get them killed by, doing unsafe things. So I'm trying to be very responsible with our coverage.
I agree.
Right?
I agree 100%. But when the province turns around and says, you know what, you can get away from your job and we will pay you to volunteer to come fight fires, that's a little fucking alarming. Oh, really? The government will give you a piece of paper that you can walk away from your job and go volunteer, and they'll pay you to fight fires. Interesting. Very weird. Never heard of that before in my life, but okay. Oh, is that what? Because we have no military anymore? Is that why? Ah, see.
Well, we do. They do have 300 Canadian Armed Forces personnel out there right now. Yeah, I know. I know that's the number. Where'd you go? Pure Knight, where'd you go? We lost him. Are you okay? Looked like he was choking or something there. There he is. He's back. Did you lose your food?
I'm right here.
I was worried about you, man. I thought you keeled over and maybe died on us or something. I'm glad you're okay.
Kim RS would tell you all if I died.
Anyway.
She's my partner in crime, and we met because of you.
Oh, well. I'm a matchmaker. How do you like that?
You did? Me and Kim RS, we're Bonnie and Clyde now.
Yeah.
And we're going to come visit you too, man. And we're going to do a whole RV thing this summer, and we're going to go see Jeremy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would be en route for you. So.
Oh yeah, you're in the mix for sure. For sure. I got the Starlink. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as these fires are concerned, I'm not impressed, honestly, with some of the BS that I've seen online.
Oh, it's 100% bullshit. You know that too, right?
Yeah.
You know it's bullshit.
So I'm not happy with that, but at the same time, I'm also acknowledging that, some of this stuff is
properly done, maybe an agenda. Yeah.
Well, by some people. I mean, some people have different motivations for doing it, whether it's somebody setting a fire so they can get a job fighting the fire, as has been, as has happened in the past and documented. People have done that in the past. A lot of different reasons. There could be political reasons, but
that's actually when people went to work and they were actually physically wanting to work. And you got to look at society.
You
now.
do get jobs in the summer fighting those fires, right? And they can get paid pretty well doing it. So, and there have been people arrested for doing exactly that in the past, setting the fire so they can get a job.
Yeah, but you're talking about the 90s. We're in the 20s now. Okay, that was the 90s you're talking about.
Well, either way, all I'm saying is I want to deal in facts. And tonight, people are focused on this news story about the guy with the 10 arson charges, and they're saying that that's related to this, and it isn't. It's not even related to this.
That has nothing to do with
the thing.
That's something totally different.
Yeah,
but there is a dude in Alberta in jail right now for actually doing this 3 years in a row. Okay, so, and he already told, and it's already out there. George Soros gave him money to do that shit. Okay.
Like George Soros gave money to him directly, because normally he would, funnel it through an organization or like Antifa, right? When they want demonstrations in the streets and stuff. And then they get the money through the organization.
It's not hard to chase down where the money came from, man. You always follow the money, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can, and in his case, you can trace it right back to him. The Soros Foundation, you can. And a lot of these NGOs and political activist groups. Yeah.
And he's in jail now. Well, good thing he's an arsonist. God dang, get those people off the streets. Crazy people. Jesus Christ. No, he admitted it. That, he was paid to do it. Okay.
I'm not familiar with the case. Do you have a name, or is there a particular... Where can we find the information on him?
You know what? I will email you all what I know, but I'm not going to share or spread gossip because I don't work that way.
Yeah, I mean, if the guy's been charged and he's in jail, then it would be public record. There would be charges laid against him. He would have been arrested, and then he would have been arraigned in court.
He's been arrested. I just can't remember the dude's name right now.
Sure. Well, if you get it, send it to me, and I'll share it with people tomorrow or whenever. If we can get the information, I'd be interested.
He was arrested 3 times for it, 3 times for arson, and he admitted that he got paid, and the money went back to George Soros, Antifa.
Okay,
this is what these people do.
Well, I believe, you seem, you've been pretty solid guy around here, so I have no reason to doubt you. Just send me the info so I can follow up on it if you can find it.
Oh
you
yeah,
can
no,
find
no, I can do. I can find it real quick, but I'm on the phone and I'm out in like I'm in the RV right now, so I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Sure. Yeah. Otherwise, how are you? It's good to see. We've never actually seen. I've never
No.
seen your face before, so it's great to see you.
Yeah, you didn't think I'd look this terrible, did you?
I had no idea you were that handsome.
Oh, stop. Jesus Christ. Is
And
Kim
if you know,
paying-
I have one of my better shirts on tonight. It's not quite as stylish as some of the others, but I'm glad that I was at least dressed for the occasion.
you do dress rather dapper. Yes, you do. So.
It's very metrosexual, I think, this shirt.
We're not going to use that term. It's so low testosterone. We're not going to use that. No.
Oh my. Well, sir, is there anything else you'd like to talk about tonight? This is your big chance to join me on the
This is
show.
my big chance. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I just want everybody to take care of themselves. Be smart. Always keep your head on a swivel. Everything is a trick nowadays. It's all a trick. And don't fall for the tricks. And if you can and have the access, buy pew-pews and ammo. Okay? Because it's coming down to the unrealistic things that we never thought that would happen in our lifetime. But we're getting there quick. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, sir. You have a good night. Pure night, ladies and gentlemen. My advice is keep it peaceful and think straight. Don't do anything stupid. Make sure that you think before you post on social media. Don't say anything that you don't actually mean. And just don't say anything inflammatory or stupid that can and probably will be used against you on social media and maybe in court, as we saw with that other feller tonight. Not good. Not good. You don't want to go there. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy. Ladies and gentlemen, that gets us to 8:55 p.m. I really appreciate everybody joining us on the program tonight. Truly do. You can support the show at freedomreporters.com. You can donate there, freedomreporters.com. You can also donate at maverickdonations.com. I do have more t-shirts coming, and a few people have asked how you can get them. For now, what I'm going to say is if you want to email me, and let me get the email up right there, maverickmultimedia@mail.com. If you make a donation of $30 or more, I will send you a t-shirt tonight. Anybody over the next day that sends in a donation of $30 or more, I will send you a t-shirt. I don't have many left. I have more coming, maybe within a week or so, but from the remaining inventory, I will send you a t-shirt with a donation of $30 or more. I suck at asking for money and selling the crap around the show. So I haven't been very aggressive about getting stuff posted and coming up with a shopping cart and an online store and all of that stuff. But I can do that initially. So $30 or more, I'll send you a shirt in the mail. You can email me at maverickmultimedia@mail.com if you would like one, and I'll get it sent out to you. You can make the donation. Probably the PayPal is the best way, and then send me a separate email just alerting me to the fact that you have done that. And then we can get you all set up with your swag. And it actually works out better if we get a donation over here, and then I just give the stuff away over there. It'll work out better all the way around for taxation and so on, I think, as I've read the tax laws. So donation, and then I'll send out free stuff. And Maverick donations would work as well. So just send me an email, and I'll get you taken care of. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe over on Rumble. or subscribe here on YouTube. If you're over here, hit the notification bell. Thank you, everybody watching on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Odyssey, and we'll be posting on the other platforms as well. And I'm really sorry about all the crappy audio with the Desantis thing and all the technical problems, but that was not us. That was the feed coming from Twitter. What a disaster tonight. I mean, wow. What a fail all the way around. So yeah, big misfire for Ron DeSantis coming out of the gate tonight. I will be back tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with more here on the Maverick News Channel, where we defrag your mind. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.